What's up, guys? This is going to be the full card breakdown for UFC Fight Night, Waterson versus Hill. It's coming up tonight, 5 o'clock start time for the prelims. This is a really good card in my opinion, a lot of interesting matchups. We had a big weekend for fights. There's another card tonight for Bellator. We had one last night as well. A lot of fights to bet on. But I think this is the best card of the weekend, and I think we're going to have at least a few fight of the night contenders. There's some bets as well. So I'm going to get straight into the card. First fight of the night, we got Sabina Mazo and Justine Kish. So this matchup, I think, is kind of suited for Sabina Mazo. I think the UFC is going to be looking at her for the win here. But I also think the line's off at plus 250, somewhere around there. Even though I lean towards Mazo to outpoint Kish in this one, I'm going to go with Kish because of the odds. Sabina Mazo is a tough girl. And like I said, I think UFC is probably looking at her for the win. But I really wouldn't be surprised to see an upset here. So I'm going to go with Justine Kish by decision. Next up, we got Bryan Barberena and Anthony Ivy. So Bryan Barberena is a really tough guy. He's fought a lot of high-level competition, a lot of fights in the UFC. He's been in a lot of wars as well, though, and he's taken a lot of damage. At the same time, I consider him a pretty well-rounded fighter. And I don't know that Anthony Ivy has the experience yet or fought that level of competition where he's going to be, a really serious threat to Bryan Barberena. He's definitely going to be hungry after that first performance. He came into the UFC and took a loss in his first fight to Christian Aguilera, one of the fights that I watched. Outside of that, though, no real competition to talk about, right? So this is definitely going to be his toughest fight. I'm going to go with Bryan Barberena in this one. I'll say he gets it done by decision. Then we got Brock Weaver and Jalen Turner. So after Brock Weaver's first couple performances, it is tough to pick him in this spot. If he's able to weather the storm, there's a possibility he gets it done late if his cardio's in check, if he's been working on that. But I think Jalen Turner, he is kind of a sniper. He throws a bit of power. He's going to use his range. At the same time, he hasn't really fought anybody of note. I mean, Joshua Culibao was way smaller than him, came in on short notice. Previous to that, he lost to Matt Favola and beat Callan Potter by TKO in the first round. I'm going to go with Jalen Turner to get it done, but I think that he's too big of a favorite in this fight. Just because Weaver hasn't really impressed me enough, but I think that he has some potential there. So don't be surprised to see him possibly get it done later, even pick up a submission. He does have a couple submission wins, so I could see him grappling in that one as well. But again, I'll go with Turner. Then we got Alexander Romanov and Rogue Martinez. So Alexander was supposed to fight last weekend. I did have a bet on him. It was almost close to even money at the time I placed it, but of course that fell off, so that bet got canceled. I was watching the weigh-ins before I made this video, and Romanov looks huge. He looks a couple weight classes above Martinez. He'll probably look for the takedowns. His striking has improved. One of the fights that I watched, it actually looked like he was pretty decent on the feet. So we'll see how it works out when it comes to UFC, but I wouldn't consider Rogue Martinez the highest level competition or even UFC caliber. So I'm going to go with Alexander Romanov by TKO. Then we got Roosevelt Roberts and Kevin Croom. So Croom's going to be a late replacement here. He's coming in to replace Matt Favola. That was going to be a bet. I thought Favola could probably get it done in that spot. But Kevin Croom coming in, against a tough guy like Roberts. Roberts definitely does have some holes in his game. But I think he's going to be prepared for this fight. He's definitely going to be hungry for the win. Probably had a really good training camp for a guy like Favola, so probably working on his grappling. His striking is pretty good. He has some power in his punches. So I'm going to go with Roosevelt Roberts to get it done by decision. But, like I said, he does have some holes in his game, so I'm never overly confident in a guy like him, but he does have a lot of potential there. Similar to a lot of the fighters on this card. That's why it's such a good one. A lot of fighters going to be looking to prove themselves. Some guys have their back to the wall, some debuts, so those really make for some fun cards. So we'll see how it plays out, but yeah, I'm going to go with Roberts in that one. Then we got Julia Avila and Sijara Eubanks. So Eubanks did look pretty good at the weigh-in. She looks bigger than Avila. Julia looked good in her past couple fights. She's pretty technical. She got a win over Gina Mazzani and Pani Kianzad. Kianzad's looked pretty good as of late, but those are her only real notable opponents. And I definitely think that Sijara Eubanks has fought a couple tougher girls. I mean, Sarah Moras is a tough girl regardless, right? She doesn't have the best record, and she's not the most technical, but she is tough, and she has a couple decent wins on her record. Betchkahea, she's been around forever, and she's tough as well. And then Aspen Ladd, an up-and-comer, tough grappler, went to decision with her. So she does have some tough fights under her belt, and even has a win over Roxanne. And it's definitely not a fight that I'm going to be interested in putting in a parlay or betting. I think it probably goes to the over. I'm going to go with Avila by decision, but yeah, I don't like the line there. I think it's definitely off. Then we got Billy Quarantillo and Kyle Nelson. So Kyle Nelson's really confident for this fight. Anytime he gets in there, he's going to make it tough for his opponent. Coming off a win over Polo Reyes. Previous to that, he lost to Matt Sales and Diego Ferreira, all fights that I watched. It's some good experience under his belt, and I don't think he should be as big of a dog as he is, but I am going to go with Quarantillo here. He's looked pretty good in some recent fights. Spike Carlisle, I think, is a really tough guy, and he caught him early with a big shot, and he was able to weather the storm and get the win over Spike. Some people disagreed with that one, but regardless, he did show a lot of heart in that fight. I think he's a really good fighter, and I think he should be able to get it done. But again, Kyle Nelson, really tough guy. He's going to come to fight, and this could definitely be a split decision. I'm going to go with Quarantillo by split. Next up, we got Alan Patrick and Bobby Green. So this is another really good one. There was a time when I thought Alan Patrick, was pretty dangerous. He hasn't been very active, though. He took that loss to Scott Holtzman, but he's had a few canceled fights since then. Previous to that, he did pick up a win over Hadzovic and Stevie Ray, and even Damian Brown. All of those were in the UFC. So he's had some decent fights, and like I said, he did look good in a couple of them. But Bobby Green, looked really good in his last fight, and the main thing was his attitude after the fight, the way he was talking, getting away from that cocky attitude a little bit, right? Before, he was doing a lot more pointing and a lot more showboating. He did do a little bit in that fight against Venata, but he was more worried about getting the win. I do start worrying, when I put my money on him and he's pointing and he's taunting the fighter. Judges don't like that, and a lot of them will just go the other way if the round's close based on the taunting. So you got to be aware of that. But he is a really good fighter. He's been around for a long time, and he's really well-rounded. And it seems like with his mindset and his last couple performances that he's in a good spot. Coming in against a guy like Alan Patrick, who hasn't been that active, I think UFC might be looking at Green for the win here. But it could also be a really good fight. I think Bobby Green should probably go for the takedown in this fight, but, it is what it is. I'm thinking he'll probably stand there and look to trade like he normally does. So this is another one that I think could be pretty good. I'm going to go with Bobby Green to get it done. 30-27, unanimous decision. Then we got Ed Herman and Mike Rodriguez. I'm not really sure why this one's so high up on the card. I guess probably because, Ed Herman's such a vet. He's been around forever. One of those guys that always comes to fight. UFC loves him. And I think that his experience could take him a long way in this fight. I don't know what type of shape he's in. If he's ready to go and his cardio's in check, I think he could do well in this fight. I definitely think the line's off. Rodriguez just fought, so he should be good. And same with Herman. I think he had a cancellation. So both of these guys should be ready to go and probably pretty hungry as well. I'm going to go with Ed Herman because of the odds. Not really that high on Rodriguez, but, we'll see where he's at in this fight. I'll say Ed Herman by submission. Then we got Andrea Lee and Roxanne Modaferri. So another line here that I think's off. Andrea Lee is a good fighter. I think she's really good on the feet. I think she's technical, and she definitely has that path to victory to outpoint Roxanne and get it done that way. But at the same time, she does kind of tire out. Lauren Murphy stole a decision. That was definitely a robbery. I think that was one of the worst decisions in recent memory. But if she can get a hold of her and make it a grind-heavy fight, she has a lot of experience. Over 40 fights, right, to Andrea Lee's 15. So she's got, close to triple the fight experience. And she is smart. She has decent fight IQ as well. I hope she doesn't look to exchange with Andrea Lee. I don't expect that she will. I think she'll look for Lee, to overextend a bit and look for the body lock, takedown, and then, look for the submission. This is another one where my pick's going to be based on the odds and most likely a small shot as well because the line's so far off. So I'm going to say Roxanne Modaferri by submission in the third round. Then we got Kamal Worthy and Ottoman Azaitar. I might have butchered that. This one, I would have liked to see Kama come in as more of a dog. But after his last couple performances, especially at the weight class, I don't think he's lost at 155. So it's going to be an interesting one. I'm not interested in a bet on this fight. I think it could play out close. I don't think this one goes the distance. I will pull up the bets. I have some overs and unders and even some Bellator fights. I'll probably talk about a couple of those at the end of this as well. But I'm going to go with Kama Worthy by decision. Then we got the main event, Michelle Waterson and Angela Hill. So, I was surprised to see that some money recently came in on Waterson. Not that she's not a good fighter, but I thought that the line would actually be declining for Hill and not be so tempting as it got closer to the fight. It's actually improved a bit. And based on how Hill's looked in her last couple fights, I definitely think that she should be the favorite, and I expected her actually to be more of a favorite. I do have a bet on Angela Hill. And, a lot of times with women's MMA, it's not as tempting. And on this fight, there's a couple lines that are off. So those will be small bets. Angela Hill, in my opinion, won her last fight. That split decision. I expected that it was going to go to her against Gadelia. She's looked a lot better as of late. She's good at sticking and moving. She's got a decent clinch as well. Pretty well-rounded fighter. She has a bit of a weakness on the ground in the past with the wrestling or being taken down, things like that. But she's been working on that. I think, she's probably going to have a bit of a strength advantage here. Michelle Waterson is in good shape, though, and, I think she's pretty strong as well. But I think Hill should probably be able to stay on her feet. And if she does get taken down, I think she should be able to survive. She has some pretty good experience. So, Michelle Waterson definitely has a path in this fight, right? On the ground, I could see her, maybe pulling off a sub. But I just think Angela Hill is in a good place right now. She's improving, and I think she might actually be at her peak, that she's been in her career, really confident, and I expect her to get the win here. So I'm going to say Angela Hill. I'll say Hill by ground and pound in the fourth. It could go to decision, definitely not confident with a finish there, but the line's probably actually pretty tempting for Angela Hill to get the finish, just to throw some change on it, but I'll probably stay away from that. I just have a bet on her straight. So I'm going to pull up the bets now. So we got Angela Hill, Roxanne Modaferri, parlay with Bobby Green, paired up with Alexander Romanov. I don't think that Worthy and Azaitar goes the distance. Roosevelt Roberts and Croom most likely won't. What was one of the other ones? There's two or three that I didn't think were going to go the distance. Romanov and Martinez. And then as far as overs, I could definitely see Andrea Lee and Roxanne going over. And then for Bellator, Patchy Mix is fighting. Anybody who's not aware of Patchy Mix, just have a look at a couple of his fights. The guy's a monster on the ground. I expected him to be Bellator champion at some point. He's got a big fight against Juan Archuleta, one of the top guys in Bellator. He has a really good record. I think he's 24-2, a lot of high-level competition. But I still expect Patchy Mix to get it done. I'm not sure if he'll pull off the submission, but I think he'll make it a tough night at the office for Archuleta and be able to get it done. So he's a really big prospect. Anybody who's interested, I think that the Bellator card starts right after UFC. They might actually overlap by an hour or something, but it's pretty close. And hopefully you guys get a chance to see Patchy fight because he is a tough prospect. Also, John Fitch, he was an underdog. I put a bet in on him as well. Not sure what the line's at now. So there are a bunch of bets this weekend. I'll also pull up the winners from last week. Criminal had some singles, Muniz, Turner, and Pereira. Of course, we know that Turner fell off the card there, but the other two came through. I think there was a couple parlays as well, but those were his main bets for straight, so good looks there by Thought Criminal. Then we had Austin. He cashed on the Contender Series and also has a bet coming up. Then we had Mayor Saidi again. I think he went 6 out of 7 last week, so some really good calls by him. He's been dropping some breakdowns every week recently, and they've all been pretty solid. So look out for Mayor. Let's see if he can have another solid run this week. And then we had Will Wong Sales. So he called Overeem, said he would get it done easy. Now, he didn't get it done easy, but, he was confident in that one. So I wanted to give him a shout out as well. He's been doing pretty well. And then the big one this week was Quincy Pinola. He cleaned up. So he had Overeem. Now, I think he came and said he was going to put a bet on Overeem previous. And then had Azur with Pereira straight, Kelleher inside the distance. And, he's looking at some spots for this card. So we'll see who he has this week. But good week for Quincy. So some winners last week. Congratulations to you guys. I'll keep doing this. What I'm going to do starting in October, I'm actually going to track for the last quarter of the year, and I'll have a cash prize for whoever comes through with the most hits. The way I'm going to do it is if you call the finish, it'll be a point, and then if you pick the winner. So 1 point for the win, 1 point for the finish. We're not going to overcomplicate it, and I'll do it that way. I'll track you guys who are leaving your picks. So that's about it. Let me know who you guys have for your bets. Like I said, a really good card. Let's hope it's another good night. Good luck. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.